confusion about putting it on a wet saw or using a wet saw. A wet saw tends to smash the glass. You can't slow the blade down. It doesn't work like that. With an angle grinder, of course, you can. You can slow that blade down. You get less heat, so there's less chipping. And there's a point as you slow it down where it really wants to grab, and away you go. Simple as that. But there's a few different blades, and there's also now, of course, a few different types of tile. So you've got traditional, should we say, mesh back or hot melt or Trend Plus. Lovely tiles. Then you've also got the Trend plastic face, and the technique is exactly the same. These tend to mark quite nicely, certainly with the same pen. And you've got your traditional paper face, which again is not everybody's favourite, but for some jobs it's a requirement, which goes back to how much surface, or the back surface, is available to the adhesive. And sometimes, not particularly with these comply reasonably well. Sometimes you've got a lot more plastic on the back. I don't know if anyone's ever tried to tile a fiberglass swimming pool with traditional adhesive. It won't work. So, and of course, over time, this is plastic welded or heat moulded to the tile. It doesn't last forever, and if it comes off, your percentage of glue that you've got sticking, or adhesive sticking the tile on, is less than, in this country it's 90%, then you may have problems, you may not, but it's a compliance thing really. And now we've got, because I put this out at one point to allow the tiler to be more aware of the amount of plastic on the back of the tile, because these have got 100 squares. That's a 25mm tile, 23mm tile, and a 20mm tile. If I hold that over the back of the tile, I can basically see the percentage. I count the dots that the plastic covers up, and I can determine the percentage of plastic on the back of that tile. That empowers you a little bit, because if they're sold as compliant tiles, then they're compliant, or are they? So it's something you may have to think about, because non-compliant tiles, if they come off, you've already accepted the quality, because the moment you take them out of the box and put them on the wall, you own them. Now, what we have done, we've got a lot of, I think I've got a bit of I've got a few threats, as it were. They didn't like the fact that this empowers the tiler. But what has happened as a consequence is they've started to produce better tiles. So the quality's gone up, certainly with a couple of manufacturers. I personally still like face-mounted mosaics in a swimming pool or in a wet area. But that can help you determine that. Now we've also got ones that have come through. Now these are slightly bigger tiles. So these are, I think, 25mm. They're slightly thicker as well. They look particularly like quite a prominent brand that has been well recognised in the industry for a long while. These are slightly thicker than those, so these are 5mm thick. And the back of them, there's virtually less than 10%, and certainly in some of them 5% plastic on the back. So they comply perfectly to Australian standards. These ones are, reasonably cheap as well. They're not outrageous, but they're slightly different. Now, different glass has different qualities. These are, I think, Spanish or Turkish glass, as opposed to who knows where. These tend to chip a little bit easier, or break a little bit easier. I'm going to do a couple for you. They split very, very well with this tool. And with glass, with a cutting tool, with a grinder, exactly the same technique. And we'll just cut a few for you. So with that one, I don't know whether you could see, but it's quite brittle glass. It snaps very, very easily. And then you can also just score it and use these wheeled nippers to just take that piece that you don't want off. And away you go. Now we've still got, unfortunately, what I would call bad mosaics. We've got mesh back mosaics, and there's virtually 100% of the back of that tile has got PVA glue, or it might be what they call cellulose, on the back of the tile. And as soon as you fill that up, fill the swimming pool up with water that you put these on, they'll pop off. So you've effectively got a bond breaker. So that's one end of the spectrum of absolutely no, do not put those in a swimming pool. And then we've got ceramic mosaics. Ceramic mosaics with mesh on the back. Now, we've had a few, I suppose they're home scientists, and they'll put this in water, and the tiles will pop off, and they'll say, oh, well, that doesn't comply. Well, that's not necessarily true, because most of the glue that's used to put any mesh on the tile is PVA glue. So even if there was a tiny, tiny percentage of glue holding that mesh on, they're still okay. It's the amount of glue is the problem. So even if you put them in water and they fall off, that doesn't actually mean much at all. What you're looking for is the amount of glue or adhesive that's on the back of this tile to hold this mesh on. And with these particular ones, I think these are Japanese. There's some lovely tiles coming out of Japan at the moment. What they do is they first soak the mesh, and the mesh is then either flipped dry and then placed onto the back of the tile. So the only glue or the adhesive that holds that mesh on the back of the tile is already on the mesh. It's not been spread out right across the back of the mosaic like those. These have also got paint on the back of the tile to give them the appearance of different colours. And of course that paint, is that paint swimming pool friendly? Most of the time it's not. So be very careful. When you've got a swimming pool, you've got highly chemicalised water there. It really isn't the place to mess about with, and especially if you put $60,000 or $70,000 worth of tiles on the pool and they don't comply. These do. You've got serious problems later on down the track, because then you start blaming the manufacturer, and there's already been, as you open the box, there's usually a disclaimer saying if you install these tiles, you accept the quality. So before you even think about pushing them onto an adhesive surface, make sure they comply, because the moment you stick them on, you've accepted the quality, you as a professional. Now there's ceramic mosaics, again, got the same mesh. I've already brought these out. It's identical mesh to the smaller tile, but of course, because the tile's bigger, the percentage of glue on the back, or the mesh on the back, is smaller, because you've got a bigger tile, which actually is the same as these tiles. These 25 mils probably got the same amount of plastic strips as the trend ones, but percentage-wise, these have got less plastic strip on than these ones. Although I must say these comply nicely. These comply even more so. So it's often about how you look at the glass, how you see the problems with it. but the moment you install it, you own them. So just again, let's cut these. Let's try and do a curve with these, making a little bit of noise, but I hope you can see this already out of the way. And again, a little bit of noise before we start. I'll turn it down when we edit this. And we've got a nice flat surface here. Always be very cautious with glass, certainly with dust, with eyes and fingers. There's the others up to one. Now this glass is a little bit more brittle than the traditional 20 by 20 with the chamfered edges. It doesn't have chamfered edges. It's got quite a nice back to it that is sort of flat and not dimpled. And these stick on a pool beautifully. Let's have a go. So again, once you snap them, if you just snap them, they're very sharp. You've got to go to a little bit of trouble with one of those diamond pads. I'll just quickly get one. I should have got all this ready, I didn't. One of these little pads and a tiny bit of glass, and done. It's no longer sharp. I've taken that sharpness off. Now with the angle grinder, because it grinds, it doesn't cut, it's already taken off the sharp edges, already gone. So we'll just wipe that bit of pen mark that I've got there, and you would be, pretty much ready to go to put that in somewhere. So that was my attempt at a 5-minute video showing you a couple of different techniques of cutting. There's a couple of videos that I've seen fairly recently. One was quite good. The guy's got a battery-powered angle grinder. Unfortunately, they're not variable speed, most of them. I haven't seen one that's variable speed. And the guy's just rigged up a little bit of tubing with the hose, and it's a wet saw. And it's beautiful, but that's okay for plastic back tiles, but not for paper face. For obvious reasons, you just melt the paper. That video, although it was very good, and that's Heath Austin from Queensland did that. Unfortunately, I daren't put it on. It's his video, but he's got no glasses on, no mask on, no boots on. So I'd get slated straight away from health and safety. That's all people see, unfortunately. They don't tend to see the technique. They're just looking at how wrong you can do something. When all's said and done, he's a fabulous mosaic tiler for the swimming pool. But there you go. So, just a big shout out at the moment to Nick Zabierski. Absolutely fabulous work, buddy, from South Australia. Really lovely tiling and patience and technique. That's the sort of thing that we really need to promote. So you've got lots of happy customers, I'm sure, over there. But if there is something, guys, that you'd like us to do, only too happy. Let's go back to the phone camera. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. If you've got this far, fantastic. If there's something an aspect of tiling or something that if I don't know the answer, I know someone who will. There's some fabulous people all around the world, that we've now got a reasonably good association and a group and a Facebook thing that's going on. So really good that you all get involved, and you know, we've all got haters as well. Negative comments are fine, you know, I really don't mind. But it's the, if you want to see something that we can do with you guys, only too happy to do that. So let me know and see how you go. But you know, if you like the video, please click the button, like it, and you know, it encourages me to do some more. We've got another little thing coming up shortly, but I'll save that as a surprise. Okay guys, over and out. 5 minutes has turned into 10, but there you go. Thank you for listening. See ya.